मेरी आवाज आ रही? Please confirm with yes in the chat box. Great. ठीक हो गया. We resume from page 503 where we left last time. Page 503. This was the same essay which we were reading the other the other evening, in fact. The title of the essay was The Great Man I Admire Most. वो शख्सियत जिसको मैं बहुत ज़्यादा सराहता हूँ, person who I like the most. So this is one of the essays that we are going to do in the first half, and the second essay will be done right after this, and this will be about your favorite hero in history or fiction. So let's do this essay first as early as possible. We have less than half an hour to finish this essay. We were at page 503 and we were talking about that famous personality who belonged to the United States of America. He was a man of African American origin. His name was Booker T. Washington, and I gave you a brief idea about the slavery and its context in America, because most of the African slaves were brought from Africa and they were asked to work as bonded labor in the southern regions of modern United States between 1600s and up until 1865 at least. And this man was born in 1858. Page number I wrote, page 503, you can read on the screen. So he was born in Virginia in 1858 when slavery of black men to the white was a recognized American institution, and so he was a slave. 1858 में पैदा हुआ, उस दौर में जबकि अमेरिका में स्लेवरी यानी गुलामी का इंस्टीट्यूशन एक भरपूर recognized institution के तौर पे मौजूद था. It was not considered criminal to have slaves in those times. But if you talk about modern times, in these times, having slaves or formal slaves is illegal. You cannot own a slave. Yes, you can have a laborer, you can hire services of a waged laborer or mazdoor, lekin you cannot have a slave as your property. No human being can be dehumanized to the level of a slave in these times. But then in America in 1858, possessing a slave was a common practice. And this man was born in Virginia and he was a black man. His early life passed in miserable surroundings. He lived in his native village of Hailsford with his parents till after the Civil War. I told you in last class, Civil War took place between 1861 and 1865 between 13 states in south of the United States and the industrial north of the United States. There were as such no Confederate states in the north, but north was industrial. This was not agrarian. North of United States में industry मौजूद थी, ज़्यादा urban था, ज़्यादा modern था, जबकि south of United States was basically agrarian and it primarily depended on their agriculture, and agriculture depended upon slave labor. They could not have industry, and their plantation economy primarily depended upon the labor of the slaves who were physically very strong, and these men were usually of African origin. His early life passed in miserable surroundings. He lived in the native village of Hailsford with his parents till after the Civil War. And Civil War was fought between 13 states in the north between 1861 and 1865. When they were all declared free, and after the Civil War, slavery was formally abolished. Slavery khatam hui, 13 states of US, they lost the war. Those 13 states actually wanted to continue with slavery because their economy, which was primarily a plantation economy or agrarian economy, depended upon slaves. Hence, they wanted to retain this situation. But due to the outcome of that war, that Civil War, South had to concede that resistance literature against the institution of slavery and its effects upon people of color. And that's why Obama also emerged as the first president of the United States who was a colored president, who was an African by origin. And that was a massive success in terms of the civil rights movement that started in America in 1960. When they were all declared free. After 1861, his parents were declared free. When free, Washington worked as a laborer in a salt mine in West Virginia. So this man worked as a salt mine laborer in West Virginia. He was very eager to learn to read and write. So while working as a laborer, he also read and wrote. But he could not afford to go to school as he was too poor to be able to give up his daily work at the salt mine. But since he was too poor, so this was not possible for him to afford education in a formal school. So he arranged with a teacher to give him lessons at night when the day's work was over. This experience made him a great believer in nights. So when during the day he worked hard, during the night he arranged a teacher who would instruct him as a tutor, and he used to pay him. Then he established a faith in night schooling as well. Work in the salt mine being disagreeable, he shifted to a coal mine. He shifted from salt mine to a coal mine, where he discovered conditions to be much worse. But when he saw conditions of the laborers in that coal mine, he got disillusioned. He gave up that also and became domestic servant to Mrs. Rufiner, wife of General Rufiner. Then he became a domestic servant, just like a servant or a home servant at Mrs. Rufner, who was the wife of General Rufner, who was the army man. He won his mistress' sympathy by his honesty and hard work. His work ethics were so good, primarily because he was essentially a good man by nature, and secondly, he was interested in studies. Since he was interested in reading and writing, these things had an ennobling effect upon his personality. So he established a good reputation with his mistress, with his landlady. But he was not satisfied and wanted to go to the normal agricultural institute at Hampton. But housework didn't please him, hence he decided to move to the Normal and Agricultural Institute of Hampton. So this was an agricultural institute in Hampton, where he decided to go. Hampton was at a distance of 500 miles from the place where he was working. So the distance between his workplace and the place where he went for studies, for his agriculture studies, the distance was too much. It was 500 miles. So this is like a huge distance between his place of work and his place of study. And he had no money to pay his railway fare. He walked the distance, begging rides and wagons and cars, and after a number of days reached Richmond. So he decided to travel by taking lift from various vehicles that he saw on the road. He left. He slept in the street at night, having no money to pay for his lodging. So he had to pay money for his lodging, and he had no money to pay for his lodging. Hence, he had to sleep in the street. In the morning, he secured a job as a coolie in wharf of Richmond Harbor, and he worked as a coolie. In this way, he earned money to pay his fare. And this way, during his journey, he earned money to pay for his fare. But after all, he arrived at Hampton, he had only 50 cents in his pockets. When he reached, he had only 50 cents. 50 cents is like half a dollar. This is like 50 pesos, half of 1 rupee. But he had only 50 cents. 50 cents is just worth nothing. This is like paying the toilet fee. This is almost equal to that. When he presented himself for admission, the teacher thought he was a loafer or a tramp. When he presented himself for admission, the teacher thought he was a loafer or a tramp. Tramp is someone who is like a khana badosh. There is no proper dressing on his body, and he had been without food and change of clothing for a long time. His wearings, his whereabouts, and his looks, they were so nasty. That's why. If there is a question, please ask. Put this in the chat box. Kashif, अगर आप सवाल है तो आप chat box में लिख दीजिएगा. I'll read and respond. So when he presented himself for admission, because he didn't have food and no proper dressing, the teacher asked him to sweep the floor of the recitation room and then see him. The teacher asked him to sweep the floor of the recitation room and then see him. Due to his wearings, the teacher did not basically allow him to become a student. Rather, he asked him to clean. And secondly, his color, the color of his skin was somehow an indication that he would not be made for studies. He would rather be made for menial works or those works which were not befitting a white man. But this was the nature of race relationship in those times. People's color would somehow decide that they would end up in which profession, and his color would somehow decide. We kindly tell about paper pattern and syllabus for the final papers. Essays will surely be part of the final paper. I plan to take a 40-mark exam, and essay will certainly be either I will give you 2 essays of 10 marks each, hence you might be required to write 2 essays of 10 marks each, hence 20 marks, and there will be 20-mark portion exclusively reserved for grammar part, which we are going to do after the essays. So far, we have got no instruction from the university about the exams. When are they going to be held? How are they going to be held? Shall we have regular class sessions? All depends upon how this corona outbreak settles, if it does. And if it doesn't, then university, how they instruct us, we should follow according to their instruction. So far, we have been asked by university to conduct these online classes. That's what we are doing either here or in my parent department. And if they permit us to conduct your exams through whichever means, this will be the formula. You will be asked to write 2 essays, and you will also be asked to submit or actually solve grammar questions that will be part of your final exam. But so far, rest assured, there is nothing clear. We don't have those formal exams happening or conducting. We are not conducting those final exams any sooner. I don't think May or end of May will be any possibility. If it happens, maybe it happens in summers, and that all depends upon how well this whole pandemic thing gets over us. If the crisis prevails, then it will all be upon university how they conduct your exam. But so far, we are asked to teach you, and that's what we are doing earnestly, honestly, and on time, according to the protocols that are provided to us. So that's how it is. There will be a grammar question about essay. Farhad Ashraf पूछ रहे हैं कि भाई grammar question about essay. There will be 2 parts. One part will be 20 marks question on essay, and the other one will be 20 marks question on grammar. So it all depends कि हम क्या grammar का पढ़ते आने वाले दिनों में, and the exam will be all about that. I have given you what I know so far. We have not been informed how your exam will take place, but university is probably banking on good future or good outcome of this crisis, and they think that maybe in coming 1 month, each life will be normalized. I also hope so. Let's see. जी मैं आपको जब एसएस का ये पार्ट कंप्लीट हो जाएगा तो जिस तरह मैंने आपको मिड टर्म से पहले बता दिया था, गिव यू फेयर आइडिया, यू विल बी गिवन a picture about your exam. But let's wait for those times to arrive. Coming back to the essay, so this man actually worked with Mr. and Mrs. General Rufner, and he had no money, and he was asked to work as a poacher in his new work in his new institution. The teacher asked him to sweep the floor of the recitation room and then see him. He did so, and the teacher was deeply impressed by his earnestness. He was admitted to the school and also worked in it as a janitor or doorkeeper. So he was again asked to work in the school, and he worked there as a doorkeeper. This enabled him to pay for his board. He graduated in 1875. So when he studied in the school, he also worked there in the school as well. And this enabled him to earn money, and with which he graduated in 1875. So he had very tough circumstances to live with. After taking his degree, he became a teacher in a native school at Maldan. he was called to his old college in Hampton and asked to deliver the convocation address. So after 1875, and circumstances became very genial for African American people, and the effects of slavery were somehow diminishing in American imagination. This man was given an opportunity to come to his native school and deliver his message. He chose to speak on the force that wins. After this, General Armstrong, founder of the Hampton Institute, asked him to train 75 teachers for working in Red Indian schools. He did this work and in addition started a night school called the Plucky Class, admission to which was given only to those who had worked for 10 hours in a day. तो एक ऐसे स्कूल में का उसने स्थान किया जहाँ पे उन लोगों को दाखिला दिया जाता था रात के स्कूल में who work 10 hours in a day. So those who work 10 hours in a day, they were provided information in those schools. Not those people who given or granted information in that school who did nothing during the day. So this was a school for those people who work hard, pretty much like many of you who work during the day and in the evening you take your PBA classes. So 7 salutes to you and 7 salutes to all those who work during the day and study during the evening. In 1881, he was put in charge of a normal school. In 1881, he was put in charge of a normal school for colored. So then he became a man who was a principal or a person in charge of a school for colored people, people who were not white. Anyone who was not white or belonging to Anglo-Saxon races was called a colored person. So if we go to the United States, we would always be categorized as people of color. Voice problem है इसलिए पेज नंबर kindly बता दें सर पेज नंबर पेज number is 503. If you scroll up in this chat portion, I wrote it right up there, 503. I type it again. There you can check. 503 is the page number. So this man was actually put on charge of a school of colored people, people who were African American as their origin. He had to start work in the school without a building and without any apparatus. So there. Sir, we are not getting your text, sir. What do you mean, Kashif? कौन सा text? मैं तो text कर ही नहीं रहा. मैंने सिर्फ यहाँ पे 503 number page लिखा है. It is there, so check. So only the teacher's salary is being guaranteed. So in this school, there was no infrastructure, no roof, no proper building for students to study, but teachers' salary was certainly guaranteed. He hit upon an old dilapidated house as a building for the school and started it with only 30 students. And then finally he got a building which was about to collapse. Old dilapidated ka matlab hai badhal kisam ki building, where only 30 students could be accommodated. He was not content with giving his pupils knowledge only. He trained each of them for a profession so that they could make a difference, a decent living after they had left school. So he was not only interested in teaching them. Old dilapidated means some building or place which is about to collapse, some building which is about to be destroyed, something very old, jo girne hi wali ho. That's the meaning of old and dilapidated. 3 months later, so this man was not interested only in teaching those students, but he was also interested in giving them instructions about what profession to choose after they graduate. 3 months later, with the help of friends, he purchased a small plantation and trained his students to learn agriculture there. And finally, 3 months later, he purchased land for agriculture, and there he trained his students about how to grow crops. This taught them also the dignity of manual labor, and there he was. This taught him also the dignity of manual labor. और इस तरह की इंस्ट्रक्शन देने से उसके स्टूडेंट्स को इंसान के हाथ से की गई मेहनत की बरकत का भी अंदाजा हुआ कि भाई how important it is to work with your own hands. All school buildings, nearly 40 with the exception of 4, were built by the students with their own hands. All the school buildings, nearly 40. तो उस स्कूल की 40 buildings बनाई गई, and those buildings with the exception of 4 उनमें से सिर्फ 4 ऐसी बिल्डिंग्स थी which were built by someone else. On the other hand, all other 36 were built by his own students. So those students were not only learning in that school, they were also exercising manual labor, and they were also physically and skillfully involved in where they studied. Okay, Alan, we can stop. Okay, let's start. Resume. So, कहने का मकसद ये कि इसने एक सेल्फ मेड इंसान था और इसने अपना सारा स्कूल खुद एस्टेब्लिश किया. जो स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पे इसके यहाँ पढ़ते थे उनको इसने पढ़ाने के साथ साथ प्रैक्टिकल वर्क यानी हाथ से किए गए काम की तरफ भी रग़बत थी और उनको न सिर्फ पढ़ाया बल्कि उनको करियर चूज करने में भी उनकी रहनुमाई. So he was not just a mentor only in terms of academics, but he was also interested in training them about life that they were supposed to be part of. That's why I'm reading in Urdu as well. I'm telling you about Urdu. If you have problem with voice, I can't do much about it because that's how it is. He died at Tuskegee, November 14, 1915, as the result of a breakdown due to overwork. So he expired in 1915. You know, he was born in 1856 or 1858. So he lived approximately 50-60 years of age as a result of breakdown due to overwork. So his overwork actually collapsed. Some of his books are Up from Slavery, 1901, Putting the Most into Life, 1906, The Story of the Negro, 1909. Negro se murad hai siyah faam shakhsiyat. The Story of Negro, Most in Life, Putting the Most in Life यानी जिंदगी में मैक्सिमम एफर्ट करना और जिंदगी से ज्यादा चीजें लेना, इसको कहते हैं Putting the Most in Life. आजाद मेरे यहाँ तो यार खत्म हो गई है. Some The best biography in the best biography is the life of Booker T. Washington by D.F. Riley. In less than 10 minutes, our class will end and we shall immediately move to the next class, or at least 10 minutes from then, we shall resume our new session. To those of my race who depend on bettering their condition in a foreign land, or in order to raise money for the schemes which he had in view of the amelioration in the miserable conditions of his race, he took to public speaking. अपनी नस्ल के लोगों के हालात बेहतर करने के लिए, एमिलियोरेशन से मुराद है उनके हालात बेहतर करना, किसी की बदहाली से उसकी हालत को बेहतरी की तरफ लेके जाना, इसको कहते हैं एमिलियोरेशन ऑफ द मिजरेबल कंडीशंस ऑफ हिज रेस, यानी स्याह फाम लोगों की हालत को दुरुस्त करने के लिए उसने इसका सहारा लिया पब्लिक स्पीकिंग का, यानी लोगों में जाके ये लेक्चर्स देता था, स्पीचेस करता था. His fame as an orator spread throughout the United States. इसकी बतौर मुकर्रर इसकी reputation बहुत दूर तक पहुंची लोगों तक. People acclaimed him and people respected him because he was considered one of the best speakers in the United States. As an orator spread throughout the United States, some extract from his speeches will help us to get an idea of the true greatness of Booker T. Washington. और उसकी अगर हम speeches सुने तो उससे हमें अंदाजा होगा कि he was such a prolific speaker. To those of my race who depend on bettering their condition in a foreign land, or who underestimate the importance of cultivating friendly relations with the southern white man who is their next door neighbor, I would say, cast down your bucket where you are, cast it down in making friends in every manly way of the people of all races by whom we are surrounded. तो इसने नफरत का रास्ता नहीं चुना. जो सफेद फार्म लोगों ने स्याह फार्म लोगों के साथ जो सलूक किया था, उसके रिएक्शन के तौर पे इसने स्याह फार्म लोगों को मिलिटेंट या तशद्दुद की तरफ मबजूल होने की बजाय उसने उनको मोहब्बत का पैगाम दिया कि you should befriend people of all races. You should not take vengeance or revenge from people of other races for all the atrocities or hardships that you suffered over the last many years. You should befriend people. लोगों के साथ दोस्ती करो, लोगों को उनके साथ भाईचारे से पेश आओ, बजाय इसके कि आप लोगों से दुश्मनियां पालो. अगर व्हाइट लोगों ने तुम लोगों के साथ बुरा किया है तो तुम लोग उनके साथ बुरा कतन ना करो, because this was not going to end in any feasible way. Hence his message was of peace. No race can prosper till it learns that there is so much dignity in telling the field as in writing a poem. It is at the bottom of life we must begin and not at the top. But it is at the bottom of life that we should always begin from zero. And from zero means that we should follow the principle of life. हमें दोस्ती और भाईचारे से पैगाम से अपनी जिंदगी आगाज करना चाहिए, बजाय इसके कि हम बिला वजह के झगड़ों की तरफ जाएं. Nor should we permit our grievances to overshadow our opportunities. और हमें एक दूसरे के बुगल्स और कीने और एक दूसरे के grievances यानी conflict points को capitalize नहीं करना है, बल्कि हमें opportunities को grab करना है. So all the opportunities that life provides us, we should all try to grab them with both hands. Part 2. What are the lessons we can learn from the life of this great and heroic Negro? The position of the untouchables in our land is not dissimilar to the position of the Negro. So these are the observations of the essay writer. Essay writer ने essay लिखा वॉशिंगटन की लाइफ के ऊपर और उसकी बेस के ऊपर उसने मुख्तलिफ सवाल नीचे छोड़े हैं जो कि हम लोगों को पूरी तरह उनको देखना है कि भाई what are those lessons that can be useful in the context of India and in the context of Pakistan as well, because we are also living in a society which is sectarian, which has problems related to caste, color, province, language, and etc., and class, etc. Hence, in order to overcome those problems, in order to cultivate an environment of friendship and love in our culture, what lessons can we learn from such prolific figures like Washington? That's the message that we can get from this particular figure. Laid down there the type of education given at Hampton is the only remedy for the mass of so-called untouchables. In India, there are many people who are untouchables. Just like in current pandemic in Pakistan, we see that not the whole country is not middle class. The whole country is not elite or upper class. Majority population in our country is poor, and they are kind of untouchables as well. You see those people who are looking for rations or who cannot afford their meals per day. They are the untouchables of our society who we didn't know so far, but they need to be educated. They need to be provided those opportunities which we somehow are provided for granted. जो हम चीजें समझते हैं कि स्कूल जाना हमारा हक है और हम स्कूल में हर बच्चा स्कूल पहुंच सकता है, लेकिन ये सच नहीं है. Not many families can afford their meals, education, health expenditures, wearings, rent for their housing, fuel charges, and wages. So these are the things which we need to consider and accommodate those sectors of our population where these things are not easily accessible. For those families, for those population groups, this kind of schools are the best remedy, even in India and in Pakistan as well. You saw on TV, various people in India are suffering because there is no job in cities. Those cities are locked down, and those daily wagers are suffering for meals and for accommodation and other facilities. Grievances means किसी शख्स के दिल में मौजूद तकलीफ है. यानी if I have not received my salary, I am a grieved person. अगर मुझे तनख्वाह टाइम पे ना मिले तो मेरे दिल में एक तकलीफ मौजूद होगी, जिसकी वजह से आप मुझे कहेंगे I am a grieved person. This is not grief, this is a grieve. Grievances उसी से वर्ड निकला है कि जिन लोगों के दिल टूटे हुए हों. जी हाँ, आप नमाज के लिए 10 मिनट जा. Okay, folks, welcome back. Those who joined, they joined. Those who joined later, they joined later. We start with the next essay that is part of the second class. The name of the essay is your favorite hero in history or fiction. या तारीख में या fiction यानी अफसाने में मौजूद कोई ऐसी शख्सियत जो कि अफसानवी हैसियत रखती है, लेकिन ऐसा किरदार जिसको आप तारीख में या अफसाना की जिंदगी में, दुनिया में आप उसको एक अजीम शख्सियत के तौर पे याद करते हैं. Thank you very much for the compliments. बहुत शुक्रिया. Your favorite hero in history or fiction? So my favorite hero in history is Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte was a famous emperor in France who lived in the late 18th century and early 19th century in Paris, France. My favorite hero in history is Napoleon. I look upon him not as an unparalleled butcher in whose wars approximately 1.7 million Frenchmen and 2 million of other lands fell, of other lands fell. एक ऐसे शख्स के तौर पे उसको मैं याद नहीं रखूंगा जिसके हाथों उसके अपने देश फ्रांस के 17 लाख लोग मारे गए जंगों में, क्योंकि उसने दूसरे लोगों के साथ लड़वाई या लड़ी. उसमें फ्रांस के अनपैरेलल्ड बुचर से मुराद है नाकाबिले इश्तराक किस्म का कसाब, ऐसा शख्स जिसने बहुत सारी जानों को जाया किया, ऐसा शख्स जिसके हाथों बहुत सारी जानें जाया. अनपैरेलल्ड यानी जिसका कोई मुकाबला नहीं किया जा सकता. उसने जो जंगें लड़ी नेपोलियन बोनापार्ट ने अगेंस्ट इंग्लैंड एंड अदर नेशंस आफ्टर द फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन 1789, अगर आपने देखा हो आईफल टावर इनकलाबे फ्रांस की याद में बनाया गया था। इनकलाबे फ्रांस आता है 1789 में, जिसको 1789 कहते हैं। And this Eiffel Tower was erected in Paris, France in 1889 after 100 years of that particular revolution. And that revolution actually ended monarchy or regal control in France and became a harbinger of democracy, liberty, fraternity, and egalitarianism were the three slogans of this revolution in France, which means Azadi. Liberty means Azadi, fraternity means Bhaichara, और तीसरी चीज है egalitarianism. Egalitarianism means equality, essential equality. तो ये revolution जो था ये monarchical या royal control यानी बादशाहत के against आया था कि फ्रांस के बाकी यूरोप में फर्द को प्राइमेसी दी जाएगी और बादशाहत का खात्मा किया जाएगा. So this revolution was actually the biggest revolution in history, if you ask, because it actually opened doors for people who were common people, just like you and I. Had that revolution not taken place in Europe, probably still we would be living in royal and regal era when emperors would be ruling everywhere and there would be no parliamentary form of government anywhere. But anyway, this man is known as the butcher in history because during his wars, 17 lakh Frenchmen died at various fronts while fighting against other people, and due to his acts, 20 lakh people or 2 million people of other lands fell. So his Frenchmen or his troops killed 2 million people in other territories, and his own 1.7 million people fell during those wars. In spite of that, he's not known for his bloodthirsty habits. Rather, he's known more for his leadership skills, and that's one of the reasons why he's the author's favorite hero in history. He was this, but he was also one of the greatest creative spirits of the 19th century and a very great man. He was one of the great creative spirits. Creative spirits से मुराद ये कि तख़य्युलाती सलाहियतें उसमें बाकियों से बहुत ज़्यादा थी. It is his constructive spirits and his greatness that appeals to me. It's constructive spirits. उसने जो काम किए वो बहुत कम शख्सियात में आपको मिलेंगे. In the caricatures that appeared in English newspapers about the year 1814, Napoleon is represented as the devil himself or with the devil pointing towards him and saying, "This is my only begotten son in whom I am well pleased." His enemies called him the devil or morally and intellectually subhuman. So because he was an enemy of England and he fought a battle of Waterloo against England in 1815, which he ultimately lost. And since he was an adversary or enemy of England, hence he was always remembered in English consciousness or English imagination as Devil's Son. So in the cartoons that appeared in England in those times, he was shown as a person upon whom devil was most proud. His enemies called him the devil or morally and intellectually subhuman, and they said that he was morally subhuman. इंसान के level से घटिया या कम है उसकी हैसियत. But this was an opinion of his enemies. Without him, the French Revolution would have gone to pieces. अगर वो ना होता, नेपोलियन ना होता, तो इनकलाबे फ्रांस का वजूद ही मुमकिन नहीं था. He was a driving force or a trigger behind it. He protected the revolution from its enemies with the mailed fist. The only way left for protecting it and made it impervious to attack. उसने इनकलाबे फ्रांस को हर हवाले से बचाया, उसके safeguard एक historian के तौर पर किया. When he fell, he left behind him, like ancient Rome, the code Napoleon, which survived in France to this day. His enemies have asserted that he took upon himself the credit of the work of jurists, and that the code Napoleon was the work of portraits. But even his enemies admit that the Napoleon War had driven these jurists almost to the point of weariness. The code of laws has been adopted in Switzerland, and Mustafa Kemal, with slight alteration, made it the code of modern Turkey. तो वो लीगल नॉर्म्स जो थी इसने जो 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 reconstitute की, because he was a lawmaker as well. So those legal norms were actually implemented in both France and also in Switzerland and in Mustafa Kemal's modern Republic of Turkey as well. मेन से मुराद है कि आहनी किस्म के मुक्के के जरिए उसने उसको बचाया, बहुत सख्त किस्म के सुपरमैनली एट्रीब्यूट्स थी इसके अंदर, जिसके जरिए उसने इनकलाबी फ्रांस को महफूज रखा फ्रॉम द अटैक्स ऑफ द मोनार्की, फ्रॉम द अटैक्स ऑफ द रॉयल फिगर्स, जो कि बादशाहत वाले लोग हमेशा हर रेजिस्टेंस का मुकाबला करने के लिए हर रेजिस्टेंस को रोकते थे, उसका मुकाबला किया इसने नेपोलियन बोनापार्ट. Napoleon was a politician and on occasions capable of minimizing his glorious achievement for the sake of political necessity. So he was a politician and on occasion capable of minimizing his glorious achievement for the sake of political necessity. And at times he minimized his glorious achievements. He never disclosed his achievements in public. Rather, he kept them as secret in order to achieve his due to the political necessity. तो अपने आप को बढ़ा चढ़ा के कभी पेश नहीं करता था, बल्कि हमेशा एक humble outlook रखता था. Note the following letter which he sent to the Count of Rovigo after the glorious victory of Montmezil and Fox-Champs in 1840. You must have lost your head in Paris since you have permitted it to go out that we here battled one against three. When I have here proclaimed that I have 3 lakh men or 300,000 men, which the enemy believed and which I must now reiterate to my disgust. In this way, you destroyed with a stroke of a pen all the good results of our victory. You should understand that an enemy honor avails nothing, and that one of the first principles in war is to exaggerate your strength. But how can this be made clear to a poet who thinks only of flattering me and pleasing the national vanity? So he was not about aggrandizing his valor or his stature in public. So he was a modest man. He never magnified his successes in public. In 1912, the centenary or the retreat from Moscow was celebrated with great festivities throughout Russia. 1912 यानी पिछली सदी का 1912 जंगे अजीम अव्वल से पहले के 2 साल पहले तक, the centenary of the retreat from Moscow was celebrated with great festivities throughout Russia. रशिया में 100 साल गुजरे जब centenary of retreat from Moscow मनाई गई. तो in commemoration of a great national deliverance, वो एक वाकया था जिसमें के पेशकदमी करने वाली ट्रूप्स जो कि मॉस्को यानी रूस के दारुल हुकूमत के ऊपर जो गालिब आ रही थी, उनको पसपा होकर वापस से आना पड़ा. तो उसके 100 साल गुजरने पे यादगार मनाई गई. Of this retreat, George Brandstreet says it can scarcely be doubted that had it been Napoleon's fortune to have established a foothold in Russia, it would have been a blessing to the people of that country. तो उस दौरान एक शख्स ने, मिस्टर ब्लैंड्स ने कहा कि अगर नेपोलियन रूस के ऊपर काबिज हो जाता तो रूस की तकदीर बदल जाती, because he was that kind of a sovereign who would make Russia's fortune change overnight. The Russian Serbs would then have been liberated half a century before they were. रशिया में वो जागीरदार सिस्टम के तहत जो जागीरदार वहाँ पे हुकूमत कर रहे थे, जो कि तसल्लुत में काम कर रहे थे, रशियन सार्स यानी बादशाहों के तसल्लुत में काम कर रहे थे, उनकी आज़ादी 100 साल पहले ही हो जाती है अगर नेपोलियन अपनी रशिया की ऑक्यूपेशन में कामयाब हो जाता. So this is a kind of a compliment that he was that kind of a person who would deliver people from oppression of any form. The religious liberties which the Tsars in his sphere proclaimed in religious liberties, which the Tsar and his peer proclaimed in 1905, would have been a reality in 1815. Tsars बादशाह है जो कि रूस से ताल्लुक रखने वाले बादशाह हैं। रूस एक बहुत बड़ा मुल्क है और वहाँ पे ज़ार्स हुकूमत करते रहे, जिस तरह जर्मनी के ऊपर काइजर्स करते रहे। जर्मनी अगर आपने देखा है या सुना है तो काइजर, जिसको कैसर भी कहा जाता है, कैसर रोम जिस तरह था, इसी तरह जर्मन एम्परर्स को हमेशा काइजर कहा जाता है। इसी तरह रशिया के ऊपर एम्परर जो बादशाह हुकूमत करते थे उनको ज़ार्स कहा जाता है, TZARS, Tsars. So the Tsars who proclaimed freedom for the Russians in 1905 in fear of revolt had this man Napoleon been in control of Russia 100 years earlier, those Tsars might have provided those freedoms to Russians 100 years earlier in 1812. And without doubt, the Russian people would have been led into ways of freedom and prosperity such as have been open to the people of France, क्योंकि फ्रांस के लोगों को आज़ादियाँ 1789 में ही मिलना शुरू हो गई थी। अगर वो आज़ादियाँ अगर नेपोलियन ने हुकूमत कर ली होती रूस के ऊपर तो वो आज़ादियाँ इनको भी मिल चुकी। I have been to Russia in 2016. I flew over there for a conference, and it's a huge country, and you still feel massive difference between Russia and Western Europe. उनका और सिस्टम है, उन वहाँ पे आज़ादियाँ उस टाइप की नहीं है जिस टाइप की आपको वेस्टर्न यूरोप में है। तो you find the effect of history upon that country quite easily. इसी तरह if you go to France, I've been to Paris, France as well. There you feel that democracy has given them that freedom to protest against any government, but you cannot exercise that freedom to protest against the government of Vladimir Putin or Medvedev or Khrushchev or Boris Yeltsin or any other president who has ruled over Russia, because that's a kind of an oppressive system where individual freedoms are not granted that easily. And you could go back to history. Why is it not possible in Russia and why is it possible in France? Because France is a democracy and an oldest democracy in Europe, so to say, probably next to Britain. So whereupon Napoleon went, wherever Napoleon went, he took the spirit of the revolution with him. So जहाँ कहीं नेपोलियन गया वो इनकलाब फ्रांस की रूह अपने साथ लेके गया. He was actually living with that particular spirit of revolution. He put an end to the Inquisition in Spain. Inquisition was also a historical occurrence in Spain when in 1492 Muslims of Berber origin in Spain were defeated by the Christians. Spain के बारे में कहा जाता है कि मुसलमानों ने वहाँ पे 800 साल किए. 1492 was a moment when two huge things occurred on face of the globe. One was discovery of United States by Columbus, and the other one was the conquest of Spain by the Christians against the Muslim Berbers of Moroccan origin who ruled over there for approximately 800 years. So when this thing occurred, the Christians indulged in an exercise or a totalitarian exercise which is called Inquisition. Inquisition एक तारीख का बहुत Inquisition एक ऐसा प्रोसेस है हिस्ट्री का जिसमें स्पेन से ताल्लुक रखने वाले कट्टर ईसाइयों ने दो कंडीशंस प्रोवाइड की जब उन्होंने स्पेन पे हुकूमत करना शुरू की कि या अपना मजहब बदल लो और क्रिश्चियन हो जाओ या कत्ल होने के लिए तैयार हो. So this was what in simple words is Inquisition. Spanish Inquisition is that famous, and in that context you see many people who were either Muslims or also Jewish in their belief, they converted to Christianity under force. Many people of Arab origins, they converted to Christianity in those times. No, this is not enough. Briefly, 5 more minutes and then. So Inquisition was basically this thing. And when Inquisitions were going on, Napoleon went over there and he stopped that process. So Inquisition continued for a long time because the effects of Muslim rule were so huge. So Christians thought that changing people's religion to Christianity was one of the most feasible ways to restore the lost heritage of Christianity in Spain. और नहीं भाई ब्रेक अब पक्की ब्रेक करना हफ्ते और इतवार की अभी let me go as far as I can. So wherever Napoleon went, he took the spirit of revolution with him. He put an end to the Inquisition in Spain. He brought human rights to the Jews of Germany. And when he went to Germany, the Jews were suffering over there. He brought human rights for the Jews of Germany because they were suffering from a phenomenon called anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism से मुराद है सामियुल नस्ल लोगों के खिलाफ मौजूद तासुब. और सामियुल नस्ल लोग कौन होते हैं? Jews को सामियुल नस्ल कहा जाता है. और Jews के बारे में हमारा कॉन्सेप्ट भी काफी हद तक एंटी-सेमिटिक है, लेकिन we have to observe and realize that this community has suffered in history since the crucifixion of Christ. उनको हमेशा क्राइस्ट के कातलों के तौर पर याद किया जाता है, इसलिए उनको हर दौर में आया क्रिश्चियंस के हाथों या किसी और रेस के हाथों उनको तशद्दुद का सामना करना पड़ता है. तो this man Napoleon went to rescue those Jews as well in Germany. He established the Code Napoleon with its liberal principles in the Rhine provinces in Holland. और इसी तरह Rhine provinces in Holland, where I lived for 8 years plus, he also brought his Code Napoleon के the liberal principles पे मुश्तमिल कोड नेपोलियन लेके ये राइन की सिविलाइजेशन जो है जो कि हॉलैंड में है, नेदरलैंड्स में है, वहां पे भी पहुंचा, where it still exists. और वहां के लॉज में नेपोलियन का कोड नेपोलियन जो है वो अभी तक मुरव्वज है. Napoleon was possessed of extraordinary mental powers. He remembered the disposition of his armies and fleets, और वो अपने आर्मी और अपने लोगों के मिजाज से अच्छी तरह वाकिफ था और आर्मी फ्लीट्स था, and the possibilities of their transformation and employment, और उनकी एम्प्लॉयमेंट्स और ये उनके तमाम चीजों से उसको वाकिफ थी. He had thorough grasp to civil and financial matters, तो उसको शहरी और खजाने से रिलेटेड मामलात से पूरी तरह वाकिफ थी. Receipts, expenditures, taxes, levies, national debt, loans, public bonds, etc. So he was an expert in financial matters through and through. He was an unmatchable master of detail, as is shown by his correspondence published under the direction of Napoleon III, from which many letters have been omitted. Even then, it occupies 32 folio volumes. लेकिन बहुत सारी चीजें मिस हुई हैं, लेकिन अभी भी 32 वॉल्यूम्स इसके मौजूद हैं. कंसेंसस मैटर्स किधर आया जी? फाइनेंशियल मैटर्स है ना? फाइनेंशियल मैटर्स, कंसेंसस मैटर्स. कंसेंसस मैटर्स मींस कंसेंसस से मुराद है कि ऐसी चीज जिसका ताल्लुक इंसान के ज़मीर के साथ. ज़मीर से मुराद है कि भाई कॉन्शियंस. So among the hundreds of instances revealing his grasp of details, the following may be cited. Following reports many disorders. He said He sent an officer to Belgium to investigate the military situation there. The officer returned and reported. Napoleon quickly handed him back the report with the words, "It is short of 2 cannon in Ostend," which it really was. और वहां पे 2 तोपों की कमी थी. Napoleon was industrial. In the army, he was a conscientious officer. जी हाँ, अब जाके conscientious आया. So he was a very officer से मुराद है ऐसा शख्स जो कि बाज़मीर हो, जिसका ज़मीर जिंदा हो, ऐसा नहीं फ्रॉड करे. ऐसा शख्स जिसका ज़मीर जिंदा हो उसको पूरा throughout his life, he was a man, he was a good and a good brother. और अपनी सारी जिंदगी में वो एक अच्छा शख्स और एक अच्छा भाई भी था. By temperament, he was scrupulously economical and frequently lost his eye to teach him. और scrupulously से मुराद है कि वो बहुत ही ध्यान से अपना पैसा खर्चता. ऐसा शख्स जो कि अपने तमाम मामलात को बड़ा देखभाल के चलाता, उसको या मेटिकुलस से मुराद है जो कि बहुत ध्यान से एक एक रुपया बड़े ध्यान से खर्चने वाले उसको प्लस करता है. When one try to cheat him, और अगर कोई इसके साथ cheating करता, he would lose temper and he would get aggressive. His high-mindedness he gave for breaches of confidence and betrayals. And उसकी high-mindedness जो है वो उसका अंदाजा हम लगा सकते हैं कि वो बावकार शख्स था. is shown by the pardons he gave for breaches of confidence and betrayal. बहुत सारे लोगों ने उसको फ्रॉड किया, उसको डिसीव किया. breaches of confidence से मुराद है कि किसी का ट्रस्ट ब्रेक करना, and betrayal से मुराद है किसी को धोखा देना. एक ही लफ्ज है. तो उस पे उसने बहुत सारे लोगों को माफ भी किया. तो इससे आपको अंदाजा होना चाहिए कि वो एक खुले और वसी दिमाग का मालिक था. He did not. स्क्रूपुलस से मुराद फजूल खर्च नहीं. स्क्रूपुलस से मुराद है बहुत ज्यादा ध्यान से खर्च करना, बहुत ही ज्यादा मेटिकुलस जो है उसको स्क्रूपुलस कहते हैं. Few men in history have been betrayed as much as Napoleon was. बहुत कम लोग ऐसे हैं जिनको तारीख में इतने ज्यादा लोगों ने धोखे दिए, लेकिन नेपोलियन उनसे एक है. The only parallel that occurs is Caesar. कैसर रोम जो है उसको आप कह सकते हैं कि उसको भी शायद उतने ही लोगों ने धोखे दिए जितने नेपोलियन के. So his trust was broken too many times. Once, so anyone who is on top can be deceived by people working underneath them. Either this is a principal of the college or a chief executive of the country or an army general. Once and चलें आज के लिए आपका लेसन आप इतना ही है. Read the rest on your own. This was about Napoleon. If you are interested in more about reading him and about his personality, read some of his works, including Code Napoleon. जिसमें वो लॉ के बारे में लिखते हैं. And if you don't have interest in reading, and if you are interested in knowing the personality through visuals or videos, do watch some YouTube videos. They are very instructive and they're free of cost basically. So if you are interested in knowing such a fantastic person like Napoleon, do read him and do follow him in those YouTube lectures or in those YouTube documentaries. That would be very helpful. I'm going to do so because I don't know much about Napoleon. I will certainly watch some videos and documentaries about this great man. So this is it for today. जी हाँ, ये एक अच्छा सवाल है सर. अगर ये पेपर में आया तो किसी भी फेमस पर्सनालिटी के बारे में लिख सकते हैं. जी हाँ, any famous historical figure that you idealize, you can talk and write about that figure. Try to avoid religious figures because without doubt we have huge respect for them. But for examination's sake, try to write about a personality that is that you know or that is fairly close to us in terms of history that we have seen in our own lifetimes. So don't talk about some prophets or religious figures. We have huge respect for them. तो वो एक ऑटोमेटिक किस्म का हमारा एफिलिएशन उनके साथ है ही है. तो try to write about a figure that you have seen or that you have read about in recent history. ठीक है. तो ये मैं कह रहा हूँ कि आपको अगर इम्तिहान में कोई ऐसे दिया जाए जो कोई फेमस फिगर या पर्सनालिटी के बारे में हो तो आप लिख सकते हैं किसी भी और फिगर के बारे में आप जानते हैं. इकबाल जनाब या इसके अलावा और भी कई फिगर्स हैं. ओबामा के बारे में, अब्दुल सत्तार ईदी के बारे में. लेकिन अबाउट अ पर्सन हु यू नो इन डिटेल, नॉट अबाउट सेइंग कि उनके बाल बहुत शानदार थे और कपड़े बड़े अच्छे पहनते थे, खुशबू बड़ी अच्छी करते. कायद इकबाल आर वेरी फेमस. आप तीसरी उनके वो जो प्रेप और केजी से शुरू हुआ है इकबाल जनाब तो स्टार्ट thinking about some other figures as well who you might have read recently. Nelson Mandela के बारे में लिखते हैं, जमाल अब्दुल नासिर of Egypt उनके बारे में लिखते हैं, यासिर अरफात हो सकते हैं, मैल्कम एक्स हो सकते हैं, मार्टिन लूथर किंग जूनियर हो सकते हैं. So yes, Imran Khan is also a possibility. Surf is a feudal person, ऐसा शख्स जो कि जागीरदारी सिस्टम में काम कर रहा हो. Surf is a title of a person who has been working in a feudal system. जो कि जागीरदारी सिस्टम में लोग काम कर रहे होते हैं, उनमें से एक टाइटल है सर्फ. स्टीफन हॉकिंग के बारे में जरूर लिख सकते हैं, बिल्कुल लिख सकते हैं, वो साइंटिस्ट. हिटलर के बारे में भी लिख सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर आपको उसकी कोई अच्छी चीजें याद हो, हिस्ट्री में हम जितना भी पढ़ते हैं हम उसको एक ह्यूमन बुचर के तौर पे याद करते हैं. Faisal, are you there? So did you? मैं आपको बता चुका हूँ कि आपके ज़हन में कोई भी इंटरेस्टिंग पर्सनैलिटी, सम फेमस पब्लिक फिगर जो कि अनकंट्रोवर्शियल है, उसके बारे में आप लिख सकते हैं. So this is it for today. No, I won't unmute anybody. I'm not interested in listening to any one of you today. मेरा आज बिल्कुल ही नहीं दिल कर रहा आपको सुनने का. तो आप enjoy करें अपना weekend. And take care. Have just write it down there in the chat portion. Otherwise, take good care of yourself. Ronald Reagan, yes, certainly you can write about Ronald Reagan as well if you know much about it. He was president of the United States during the 80s, and he was an actor as well, and he is also an example of a person who rose from rags to riches. As a shakhs jo ke kak se lakh bana tha. Actor था, मुश्किल हालात में जिंदगी गुजारी, and finally he became president of the United States of America. Donald Trump के बारे में आप नहीं लिख सकते, वो president है, लेकिन I don't see anything that is worth mentioning about that. He is a fool. He is a joker. जी हाँ, रूजवेल्ट के बारे में, Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president of the United States during 1940s, during the Second World War, he is certainly one of those. You cannot write about not anyone else. This is not a public. You have to write about someone. This should not be some actress or figure who is controversial. Yeah, पोइट के बारे में लिख सकते हैं. अब आप जर्नियाँ शुरू हो गए. Okay, take care. Thank you very much. Bye.